Hello, everyone. Welcome to ETManufacturing, the Industry Dialogue series. As you are aware, the recent India and UK free trade agreement is expected to significantly boost India's manufacturing sector, maybe because of the reducing tariffs and enhancing market access for various goods, particularly in textiles, engineering, and maybe some other labor and technology intensive sectors. So this includes increased export opportunities for Indian manufacturers in the UK market and vice versa, along with positive impacts on employment and economic growth in India. So in our episode today, we have our guest speaker, Mr. Kishore Jayaraman, who is the India chair of UKIBC, that's UK India Business Council, who was the president of Rolls-Royce India and South Asia prior to this. So Kishore, welcome to the show and look forward to interacting with you on this very interesting topic.
Thank you, Shekhar Ji. It's always a pleasure to be with you on these shows. And it's been a little while since we last met. And I'm very much looking forward to this session. Thank you.
Sure, definitely. So, Kishore, the India-UK FTA has been long anticipated and now it has been in process now. And it has been a while since it's got signed. So from your vantage point at UKIBC, what are the key provisions in this agreement that could most immediately impact India's manufacturing sector?
Firstly, I think it is a phenomenal, success for both the governments, the Indian government and the UK government in terms of getting this FTA through the line. I think the signature was a very momentous occasion. And I think it marks the beginning of a new phase of relationship between UK and India. And it is just the beginning. And I think the trade has been very good between UK and India, almost 40 billion pounds annually. But I think what is more important is the fact it is about also lots of job creations that have happened both on the UK side as well as on the India side. And I think as we look forward into the future, the signing of this FTA is a clarion call or is a nice initiative that is going to take us forward in the relationship. But what is very, very important is in the implementation of this FTA once it becomes active. And I believe the spaces are, at the very high end, it's textiles, gems and jewelry, automotive, energy solutions, and technology and security, defense, aerospace, financial services, fintech, startups, SMEs, MSMEs. The focus is plenty between UK and India. I think the strategy roadmap that has been set between UK and India is for Vision 2035. And it's a very ambitious plan. And I think it is a beginning of something that we as the industry have to get together. And I think we as the industry have to define what does value mean for us. And then we as the industry have to understand what the FTA can bring to the table for us and then take it forward. The FTA is also a document that I think allows us as we go forward to identify challenges that are happening and basically take those challenges and sort of address them with the relative governments, because both the governments have agreed that we want to have this, fair trade agreement or free trade agreement, whichever way you want to look at it. But I think it is something that will be evolving through the years to come. It's a living, breathing document. It's like a baby being born and then growing into the stages of maturity.
Well put together. And as you rightly said, everything depends on the implementation and the overall involvement of both the countries in it. Right. So you already mentioned the sectors which can be the big beneficiaries of this FTA. But how significant could the export growth to the UK be? And maybe on other side also from UK to India?
Look, I think all these different sectors, we have to look at what is the value that UK can add to India. For example, if we take manufacturing, the manufacturing technologies that are present in the UK are actually very, very, very good. And I think we can adopt those technologies in India, and the capabilities and the capacities in India are plenty. I think those can be leveraged from the India side. Now, we also have to say how it is mutually beneficial. None of this is going to work unless it is a mutually beneficial situation. And so both companies are going to look for profits. Companies are going to look for returns on investment. And so we need to figure out a path forward through this whole thing. And that is where UKIBC comes into the picture. I think the UK India Business Council is very well positioned in order to make sure that the last mile connectivity partnership exists. The industry is looking, UK industry might not fully understand what are the nuances of doing business within India. And vice versa, where the Indian businesses, the large houses have participated in the UK. But I think there are still a lot of the MSME sectors that want to figure out how to participate in this economy. And I think that is where UKIBC says we will become the last mile connectivity partner for you. And in manufacturing specifically, I believe there is lots and lots of hope.
How will the reduced tariffs and enhance market access influence, as you mentioned, India's MSMEs mainly, and also the mid-sized manufacturers who often face some kind of entry barriers in the developed markets like the UK?
Look, whenever you have taxes and the exact regime has to be unraveled, it's a 2,000-page document, and we are all working on. Actually, UKIBC is working very closely with a lot of people in order to make sure we are able to interpret this sector by sector, map it region by region, and then make sure that we understand exactly what it means. There is a lot to go before we can say that, look, this is the advantage this particular sector gets. And what our goal is we take this and we say, okay, here is the benefit for this sector. For example, if we take textiles, we say that in textiles, what is the advantage for Indian companies, Indian textile manufacturers in the UK? And then look at the UK side and say, what is the advantage for the UK manufacturers in the Indian side? Lots of things are, technology-wise, machinery-wise. I think manufacturing is very key. I think capital goods plays a very important role. And I think those are the spaces that have to be analyzed and brought to the fore.
Like you said, MSME will play a major part in this, apart from the big corporates. So is it the same scenario in the UK industry also? There are also many MSMEs, they are looking forward to work with Indian businesses.
Absolutely, yes. And the thing is, they do have products, they do have technologies, they do have services that are very relevant for the Indian economy as India grows. India has the demographic dividend, India has the demand, right? And it's got advantages where India is well positioned between Europe and Middle East and Africa, right? And then so India can definitely serve that space and also the Asian space. So the question is, India can be used as a hub for exports for the SMEs, etc., from the UK. And the question is, what does it really mean in terms of business, right? All this is only going to work only if there is a business return on investment that is acceptable to the businesses. And I think the game is over anymore when people think that I'll come to India and I will sell in India. I think India is looking to say, how are we partnering, collaborating? How are we joint manufacturing? And how are we co-creating for the future? These are going to be themes that the companies have to understand. And to appreciate that, I think UKIBC is positioned to explain the needs of the Indian side and the needs of the UK side, so that Indians also understand what is it that companies in the UK want, and then figure out why that is going to be important for India and why that company becomes relevant for India as partners, then explain it to them and create a win-win situation.
Yeah, it will be very interesting to see India becoming the export hub in future. And but also beyond tariffs, the non-tariff measures and the regulatory standards often pose some kind of challenges. So how can Indian manufacturers align better with UK and EU standards to fully capitalize on this FTA?
Look, the standards are meant for a reason. And I think for the world to be a better place, the best of the standards have to be adopted. Whether it be on the Indian side, India is no longer the place where we say our standards are low and everybody else's standards are great. I think India is a place where we say that we have standards and the world says we have standards. And I think the appreciation of these standards and understanding as to why standards are different and seeing what are the benefits by having these standards amended appropriately is the policy advocacy piece that needs to happen, right? And in that space as well, again, I say that UKIBC does a lot of policy advocacy, and we intend to take these in and figure out a way out of these for the benefit of the companies.
Do you see the FTA creating opportunities for greater collaboration in especially the high technology areas, such as aerospace, defense manufacturing, and also the clean energy solutions, where both India and the UK have the complementary strengths? And as you also noticed, that aerospace and defense manufacturing in India is growing fast since last few years, and eventually I'm sure it will compete with many developed countries.
I think it's the key. It depends on which one you're looking at. If you look at rifles or guns manufacturing or bullets manufacturing, it's one thing. If you're looking at missiles, if you're looking at technologies that are able to precision address the needs of the Army or the Navy or the Air Force, that's one thing. To have artificial intelligence incorporated into all these in defense, as we recently saw in the recent Operation Sindoor, I think that becomes the next level. And then there is the undersea drones that are evolving. Then there is the directed energy weapons that are evolving. Then there is the stop talking about defense for a second. Then there is the battery solutions that are evolving. Then there is the energy, different energy related sustainable initiatives that have come about. And then for quantum computing, you look at digital services. Look, there's a plethora of things that are out there. And all these things, at the end of the day, have room to be absorbed by India and to be delivered by India and to be able to collaborate from India. Recently, I was just speaking to someone and they're talking about quantum computing and how India is very much focused on it. The future is going to be in quantum computing. If the future is going to be in quantum computing, then the question is, where does quantum computing sit in the UK and where does quantum computing sit in India? And how is it that the collaborations are going to happen? What are the companies outside of these two markets that actually participate in these markets and enhance the technology cooperation, collaboration between these markets? This is going to be very, very, very important. We should not look at it and say that UK absorption in India, India absorption in the UK. It is about India absorption from the globe relevant for UK, UK absorption, from the globe relevant for India, and how these two nations come together.
But if you see from an employment and a skill development perspective, so how does the FTA benefit India's workforce, particularly in the advanced manufacturing and export-driven businesses?
I think there is a lot of room in the education space. I believe that the universities we have are very good. But I think there is need for education is also very, very big. And I think, if you're looking at 1 million graduates a year, it's going to continue to increase in that volume over some period of time. And I believe that the UK universities are very keen to open campuses or programs in India. And I believe that, Indian students will absorb them. Yes, there are other issues that needs to be addressed in terms of student mobility, in terms of other things which the governments are working. So that is not from an industry point of view. Yes, it affects the industry, but it is also something that is geopolitical in nature, which the government should address appropriately. But what UKIBC can do right now is basically look at the education space and say, here are some universities that offer some education and technology in education that really matter for Indian students, for our students to gain that knowledge and become global leaders. And I think that space is also going to grow tremendously. I think recently in India, there was a legislation that came about which basically said participation of UK or US or Australian or Canadian universities in India opening up programs for Indian students, graduation sort of opportunities with those universities in India. I think that is a very brilliant idea. And I believe it puts a lot of knowledge, not sharing, but knowledge creation in India.
Apart from the industry, I think academics and the universities will also play a very major role in this collaboration, and the students of both the countries will definitely benefit out of that.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
How do you assess the long-term strategic significance of this FTA, and could it set the template for India's future trade agreements with other developed economies?
Every single agreement is a lesson of its own. And I think these learnings that come out of this FTA, the good and the bad and the challenging and the difficult will all, and the joy out of it, will all be learnings that both parties will take, India as well as UK. And they will definitely play a role in each of these nations' FTAs as they go forward. And I think each nation is very different. The challenges with each nation is very different. The needs of India are very different. The needs of other nations are very different. And the FTA is an understanding saying that I really want this bilateral agreement between our nations so that we believe that we can partner in the trade and economy front. And we will be able to grow our industry, to grow our employment, to grow our future positioning in all different areas, And I think that is the spirit with which the FTAs usually are signed. But as the FTA complete signature, the implementation is where the real gold lies. Because the implementation doesn't happen, it just becomes a document for posterity. But if the implementation happens and constantly it is enhanced, it becomes a living, breathing document. And that is how nations can grow leveraging each other.
So, based on the documentation which has been already prepared and the implementation plans, do you think as we go along with the FTA implementation, based on the feedback and based on the scenario which will be created after or during the execution of this some of the policies, there will be some changes made in the document in future?
I think so. I think so. There will be amendments in the future. I'm sure that it will be only positive direction. Nobody's going to take this document down from where it is today. I think it is just going to get better and better. Yes, of course, there will be amendments in the future.
So, looking at the current scenario of the global tariff war, do you see this India-UK FTA providing some kind of cushion for the Indian manufacturers in today's environment of global tariff volatility, and or does it add urgency for India to diversify its trade relationships further?
Look, situations change. Everybody used to talk about the VUCA world, during the COVID times. And everybody used to say, oh, this is disaster. Look at COVID. Look at everything shutting down. Look at the world collapsing. And then the only thing I could say in some of my speeches at the time is that this too shall pass. Right. And I think when you look at these challenges that we get posed with, I think those challenges will definitely fall behind as time goes by. But regardless, what is important is to look at each and everything. And I can only speak about the India-UK FTA right now, because there has been FTA signed with Australia, with UAE, with with various other countries as well. And of course, negotiations are going on in the US at the moment, as we know. So I think there's a lot of things that are going on in the world. And I think in all this world, I think it is also important about the multilateralism that people want to have, right? And so between bilaterals versus multilaterals, there's always going to be partnerships created. There's going to be avenues created. And I think these are all things that, people who are way more intelligent in the space of economics, and people who are way more intelligent in the terms of how the governments work, I think they will handle it. I think all these things will come out and challenges will be ironed out. But in regards to the UK-India FTA, I honestly believe that I think it is a clarion call for UK and India to start looking at things in a very microscopic way and really say that, look, this is what I want to do. And then do a bottoms-up approach of building the industry on both sides and creating the employment on both sides and creating the revenue growth, the top-line growth for companies to succeed. And then co-creating opportunities, co-manufacturing opportunities, and co-research opportunities, right? I think the future has to be taken care of, the present has to be taken care of, and I think we need to move forward from the past.
Yeah, I think considering that, I believe FTA has come on the very right time, where
Yes.
India is also becoming like the major point of contact for other countries as well.
That is correct.
That will definitely help the manufacturing industry.
That is correct. Yes.
Talking about your earlier working with Rolls-Royce, you led the Rolls-Royce India and also the South Asia for over a decade, expanding its footprint across civil aerospace, defense, and power systems. So how do you see India's current push for indigenous manufacturing, the Atmanirbhar Bharat, aligning with the global partnerships in these advanced sectors?
You see, there are many ways to achieve technological expertise and to create manufacturing capabilities in the country, and to also achieve skill development and employment opportunities. But all these, the underlying factor is there's got to be win-win solutions. And there are technologies. And if you look at the aerospace technologies, India has embarked on this whole combat engine, the AMCA engine program. And if you take the AMCA engine program, the best model that India has come out with and is talking about a lot is a co-creation concept. It is a joint IP concept. And I think, the joint IP co-creation is a model where you develop a product that has the technological competence to address the needs of India. And that can only be done when there is research and collaboration and building that technology together. That is not going to happen by just buying some technology. But there are technologies which exist in the world today. And the question is, if you're going to buy that technology, what does it really mean for India? Does that mean it just gives me, if it's a defense technology that you buy, does it provide extra security for us? Can we manufacture it here? Can we absorb the technology here? What will happen to the IP? Because absorption of technology automatically means that you're just going to have a training course that will allow you to manufacture. But in reality, if you say absorption of technology means I own the IP that I can start manufacturing it, then the other company on the other side starts saying, I spent so much money on research and development. Where does that go? Where does that come from? So I think it's a question of understanding that everybody spends money in order to build their products and technologies. And if India wants to buy them, that is fine. But if India wants to absorb them, that's also fine. There is a business model for that too. But if India wants to say, I want to create a technology that is available for the future, leveraging off of the technology created in the past, that's also possible. And I think the more and more we look at co-creation and joint IP creation, I think it is very good for Atmanirbhar Bharat. Atmanirbhar Bharat is never going to happen unless we have IP service. IPs are never going to happen unless we invest in programs, unless we work with foreign companies and also with our excellent organizations here in India and bring them all together. And academia. We should not forget the universities. We should not forget the academia, the brilliant minds that eventually will come into this country and run the future for us. I think we need to involve academia, government, industry, and create IP. And I think that's going to be the future. That's going to be Atmanirbhar Bharat.
Very well observed. So having spent a lot of your career time in both Rolls-Royce and GE, you have seen firsthand how global companies integrate technology, innovation, and strategy. What lessons from that experience would you like to share with Indian manufacturers aspiring to scale globally?
Look, always we have to understand it's got to be a win-win situation. I keep repeating it through this session because at the end of the day, everybody wants to collaborate. Everybody wants to grow their business. Scaling of businesses is but a natural thing for business leaders. But scaling of businesses has to come to a point where it happens to a win-win situation. So if you are working in a country, then the country should benefit from it. So if UK is working in India or India is working in the UK, it should benefit that particular host nation. And it should also make sure that the industry that is participating or the company that is participating has a scalable, profitable model that emerges out of it. Gone are the days, I believe, where it can be that one country benefits and the other doesn't benefit. And I think it is in the eyes of the beholder. But at the end of the day, the aspiration can only fructify if companies think about it that way, industry thinks about it that way, governments think about it that way, and then figure out how to get this going. And if that does not happen, I think we will be talking about this for a decade later, wondering why we didn't do it then.
So just last question. Looking ahead, what would be your top 3 recommendations for Indian manufacturers to leverage the India-UK FTA, not just for exports, but also for innovation, for technology transfer, and the global competitiveness, which is very important today?
I think number one thing is to understand what this means for each and every business and industry. Number one is to understand what it means for you. And number two is understand how you want to participate in this. And third is understand, once you know what it is, once you know how to participate in it, what does success look like? And if you are very clear on these things, then I think eventually getting to an agreement for businesses to work together or industry to participate in each other's economies becomes very easy. It is not a very complex problem in my mind, but I think it gets complicated when you throw in all the other variables, right? And I think it is very, very important that we only limit ourselves to some few basic variables and then start adding in each and every other variable as we build this whole thing. It has to be a bottoms-up approach. It has to be where last mile connectivity is very, very important. It has to be where appreciation of cultures, understanding of economies, understanding of geopolitics, and understanding your own business model for the future, all is brought together. that learning is number one key. Once that understanding is there, things will move forward. You should not look at it and say, here I am, I want to sell in your country. That's not the answer.
So since there are many stakeholders involved in this whole process, if you see the manufacturing value chain, so everyone has to be on the same page. So be it in UK or be it in India or any other country. So for getting everyone on the same page, that requires some kind of very standard process or standard, you can say, the standard thought of what exactly you want to earn from that. So how do you resolve that complications arising out of involving many stakeholders in it?
I believe, honestly, that is where organizations like UKIBC come in. That is where trade associations in India come in. That's where organizations like Innovate UK, organizations like BCC, the British Chamber of Commerce, City UK, UKIFB. There are many, many collections within the industry, and these industry bodies have to be brought together. And I think that is what we have taken as a challenge, saying we're going to bring them all together so that industry bodies understand the challenges. The challenges are put together and figured out, okay, if these challenges are overcome, what can happen, what cannot happen. And for that, the first step is to get them together. The next step is to put that list together. The third step is to say which company wants to do what, and then do individual projects with companies. And these are all the things that UKIBC is working on right now. And I believe that that is a very important piece of this puzzle.
So thanks a lot. We touched upon not just FTA, but also many facets of Indian manufacturing and global trade. And I'm sure going forward, this FTA will pave way for both the countries to excel in the manufacturing, global manufacturing. So thanks for your time and thanks for joining us. And I really look forward to have many more interactions with you, maybe sometime in person in Delhi.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Shekharji. It's always a pleasure to see you. I'm sorry it's been a little bit of time here between our last meeting and now, but I will look forward to seeing you in Delhi very soon and having further conversations on these topics.
Sure, definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you.